Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spin It Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about the new album from Broods called Evergreen. One thing I always love when checking out new releases is finding a debut album that really impresses me, when you can go into an album with little more knowledge than a couple hot singles and coming out a huge fan. Because not only does that mean it's a great album, but it also means chances are they're going to keep getting better as they hone their sound more and more in the future. 2013 in my mind was a fantastic year for this, between Lorde, Capital Cities, Robert DeLong, Churches, Red Gold Green, Beware of Darkness, Youngblood Hawk, and a few others. 2014, however, hasn't been quite as fruitful in my opinion, though mostly because I've been a little guilty of falling back on established acts I'm already a fan of, though there are definitely some exceptions, namely Air Dubai and especially Bad Sons. Which brings us now to Broods, an indie pop and synth pop duo consisting of the Knott siblings, George on vocals and Caleb on instrumentation. It's gotten a good amount of buzz over the last year or so, mostly thanks to big singles like Bridges and Mother and Father becoming mainstays on alternative radio, opening up for Ellie Goulding for a few dates, and teaming up with Joel Little, the producer and co-writer best known for his work on fellow New Zealander Lorde's Pure Heroine. So between all this and actually really liking all the said singles, I was definitely interested in checking out their debut, and I have to say that even though I did have pretty high hopes going into this, I wound up loving it even more than I expected. I know I've mentioned the direct association these guys have with both Lorde and Ellie Goulding, but those are honestly the best comparisons I can think of when describing this album. Between the tight, snappy drum parts, the moody synths that can be equal parts fun, infectious, dark, and powerful, the reverb-coded production that actually helps to add to the atmosphere and catchy melodies rather than just kind of swallowing up the mix, and George's very ethereal, emotive voice to help drive it all. And while this album definitely does have a cohesive sound to it, a lot of these songs do manage to separate themselves from others for reasons other than just having different melodies. The driving kick-snare pattern on Mother and Father, the downright dramatic synth tone on Every Time, the smooth R&B vibe on Killing You, the punchy, almost handclap-like drum machine on LAF, the gorgeous multi-layered harmonies and guitar solo on Never Gonna Change, the pretty clear Lorde worship on Sober and Superstar, and Medicine, the most atmospheric song here by far, that's probably the most emotionally moving on a musical level of any song here. All that being said, the thing that really caught me by surprise here is the lyrics. Honestly, between Beck, Air Dubai, Phanogram, Coldplay, Bayside, the Black Keys, I gotta say that I can safely dub 2014 the year of the great album with a loose storyline about a breakup. I'm working on logistics. But in all seriousness, while it definitely is a main aspect, which I'll get into in a little bit, if I had to sum up the main theme of Evergreen by Broods in a couple words, it would be reluctant independence. Mother and Father shows us first, albeit outside the relationship context, where the narrator is just worrying about the process of growing up and living out on her own as a young adult without someone to run to all the time. After that, we go straight into the relationship issues with Every Time, where she's looking for a significant other to fill that kind of spot, and telling him off for being neglectful in that way. Now, I admit, on its own, this song might risk coming off a little melodramatic, but in the context of the album, it works perfectly. Later we see her lamenting this more in Killing You, and in this song especially, it's getting ambiguous whether she's talking to this boy about constantly delaying plans to meet up, or her own family. And what would make it even more interesting is when you consider that this might be especially autobiographical and talking about maintaining these relationships while touring the world as a musician. Bridges shows the turning point where she just cuts off the relationship entirely for both parties' good, while the tracks from LAF to Medicine are more a period of reflection, going back and forth between reminiscing about the good times and just kind of wallowing in sadness, and rightfully so, while in a pretty mature move, considering that she might actually be part of the blame for this, for pushing too hard and asking for too much. It's this kind of key self-awareness that really makes for a great character in an album like this. Sure, there are little moments of melodrama here and there, but you can tell it's intentional and controlled, and really just meant to emphasize certain feelings and emotions at the right times. That all being said, if I had to point out one minor issue I have with this album, it would be the sequencing after Medicine. See, the album ends with 3 straightforward love songs, the title track, Four Walls, and Superstar, that, while granted are all great in their own right, don't really fit into that storyline that was developing for the rest of the album, and I have to admit, I was a touch let down by that. I imagine there was a point in the post-production process where they just had these 8 perfectly ordered songs with this semi-cohesive plot, and then they were writing these other 3 songs in the meantime, and when the time came to order the album, they just kind of slapped them at the end. Still, that's a definite nitpick, because like I said, all the songs here are still great all the way through, and given that I didn't even expect this kind of smart, well-thought-out, and emotionally compelling storyline when I was going into this album, I'm still more than happy with what I got, and Evergreen gets a 9 from me. This is a fantastic debut from an act that deserves all the buzz in the world right now. If you're a fan of those great female-fronted indie-tronica acts in the vein of Lorde, or Ellie Goulding, or Churches, or Fangram, then definitely check this out. You won't be disappointed. So if you guys have heard this album, what do you think of it? Do you agree with what I had to say? Disagree? Have any feedback about the channel in general? Let me know in the comments down below. And share this around with anyone who might be interested, like the Facebook page in the description for updates, commentaries, music news, and reviews of older albums. And hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Spin It Reviews.